I don't focus on the L's. I sound like Gary Vee right now. Like Gary Vee. Just like, you gotta learn to love losing. You gotta learn to... Absolutely. I've had tons of experiences where I've just been like, wow, like really? Like, that's how you want to move? You did that, you know? But it just doesn't stick with me like that. I just don't let it stick with me. It's one of the reasons why I just like, people always comment on how just like relentless I am with like my moves. And like, yo, I've been out in LA for like, I've only been back here 2 or 3 weeks. I've had sessions with massive artists.
This the Prodcast with the Prodigy. This the Prodcast with the Prodigy. This the Prodcast with the Prodigy. My podcast.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Prodcast with the Prodigy. Today, I'm joined by a special guest by the name of Alexander. How you doing today?
What's good, bro? I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Where are you from? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Originally from England, in the UK. I spend a lot of time in Los Angeles now, but yeah, originally from like the north of England, kind of about 3 or 4 hours away from London. Quite a small town.
That's pretty sick. You're actually like one of the few people that I've met from like the UK. I don't really... Probably one of the first, actually. Yeah. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, there's not that many of us out in LA. You know, there's a few. I meet a few of them, but there's not that many of us.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. So tell me, what do you do?
I'm a producer. I make beats. I record artists. Work on songs, projects, stuff like that.
Sick. So today we're filming this podcast like a little later because you were filming early in the morning. To how early? Like 6 in the morning?
9. We left in session at 9. Yeah.
9 in the morning. Who are you working with?
Lil Xan and Icy Narco.
Lil Xan.
Yeah, we were working on some tracks. So it was actually nuts because Icy called me at like 2 a.m. because I was already at another session working on something else. Icy called me at 2 a.m. and was like, "Oh, like I want to work," and I was like. I was almost like, nah, like this is, but like there's no such thing as night and day in LA.
Yeah,
you know, just everyone's just on their own schedules. So I was like, okay. So I hit my engineer and we got the room. He was already at the studio, so we pulled up there. We started recording, and Xan had posted on his Instagram that he couldn't sleep. He's like, who's up in LA? So I was like, oh, what's good? We're in the studio with Icy Narco, and Xan had actually liked Icy's music, so he came through. We did a track. It was pretty fire. That's
sick. It's cool because Lil Xan actually lives out here in Mar City, Corona. Mm-hmm. I heard that he's sober now. Is he sober now?
He seemed pretty sober. Like I don't know that much about his experience with substances, but like actually, to be fair, of all the artists that I've worked with out here, Xan is by far just one of the like most polite, one of the most respectful. He came in, he like thanked everybody. He was like, "Thanks so much for inviting me." I was like, "Yo, bro, like you're Lil Xan, you're cool. Like you don't need to thank me." And he was really respectful with the engineer, and compared to some artists who are just like quite like blunt and quite like sharp with the engineer, you know. Mm-hmm. He was just like every time just thanking him for doing stuff, being like, "Please, can you do this?" He was dope.
Yeah,
it was it was like very easy, very pleasant to work with.
Yeah, that's sick. Yeah. I would have never guessed that based off like the music and the videos he posted out before.
Yeah, he's
crazy.
He's real chill. I have something lined up with him for the weekend as well, and also with Baby Goth, who he's worked with before.
Yeah,
back in the day. But I've worked with Baby a bit. I have like 3 unreleased tracks with Baby. We were meant to be in the studio last weekend, but she had to move it to this coming weekend. And at the Lincoln with Xan, I was like, "You guys want to do another track?" And they were like, "Yep."
That's sick.
Here we go.
Do you find yourself like recording more during like the day or like later at
Definitely night.
Yeah,
definitely. Like 90% of artists would prefer to record in the evening or. Like actually Baby's kind of an exception because she prefers to do like mid-afternoon going into the evening. Mm-hmm. Let's say Icy calling me at 2 a.m. Like, I want to get in the studio now, and I'm like, oh, okay, let's go. And the thing is with like actually like Icy's like I'm pretty tight with him now. He's pretty chill. Like kind of he's like on a homie level now, but especially when you first start working with these artists, you know, like some of them are kind of flaky, kind of inconsistent, and they've got a lot going on. And it's like whenever you get that opportunity to get that first session with them, you got to just snap it, like no matter what time of the day it is. You know, so it's like, all right, it's like stupid o'clock and it's like 2 hours drive. Fuck it, let's go. You know, let's get the session. Because once you build that relationship, that's when you start to have like a better experience with the artists.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your childhood. You grew up in England. Did you like play any sports? Like, did you play cricket? Have you ever played cricket before? I know that sounds a little stereotypical, but
only
it's a
like
question.
Only like on the school, like in like the playground, the schoolyard, you know, but didn't like.
Not as a professional sport.
Nah, I was never. I was never much of a sports guy. Like I was kind of fat and weird as a kid. So I used to. I mean, I it's funny as well because I still am kind of fat and weird, but I get laid now, so it's okay. But I used to do when I was a teenager. I got into martial arts a lot. Then I got slightly less fat and probably weirder.
I knew how to beat somebody up now.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, well, you know, like I'm weird, but I'm gonna kick you in the face. So, yeah, I was never really a sports guy. Like when I was younger, I was into a lot of video games.
Yeah.
You know, I was that kind of guy. I did like Warhammer where you paint the figurines and shit.
Yeah.
I did that for a little bit. So I was fat, weird, dorky, you know. And then I got cool when I was about 17.
How did you get cool?
Music.
Yeah.
For real. Music. Like, I remember at the school I was at, I was that kid who was always, because there was like a music department. The music teachers used to come to me to ask me to show other students how to use the studio. Like it got to the point where like I like knew what I was doing with the equipment better than the teachers did, because I was always in there like during lunch times, like after school. I recorded my first ever music project just like in between school hours. I actually got locked in the music department one time after everything closed down, and I had my head out the window. I was like, help, help. And one of the art teachers heard me and came and let me out. But yeah, like around that time, people started kind of like knowing who I was a little bit more, like socially, and like I got a girlfriend and stuff. And then, but it's funny because the town that I come from, it's a little, how to say this delicately. There's a lot of people there with a sort of like, I'd probably describe it as like a bit of an anti-success attitude. Like they don't like to see people from their communities doing something because it's like they take it personally. And I've had like a lot of people from my hometown actually like quite aggressively come at me like with like a lot of like abusive messages and stuff, like a lot of accusations. And a lot of them are people I've never even met. You don't even know them, you know. It's like people from my community who have just like seen what I've done and just drawn their own conclusions. If people swap stories and stuff, and
yeah,
you know, it's like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've got a lot of really great friends back home as well, but you know, I definitely feel more at home in somewhere like California.
That's crazy. Yeah, I feel like out here, once you like start to get a little bit hype, there's a lot more love to be like thrown around more than like hate.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, in some sense, you know.
I mean, there's always going to be hate. Like, whenever you do anything that makes people pay attention, there's always going to be someone who doesn't like it, and that's fine. You know, I think in some ways I was fortunate because like I first encountered hate when I was quite young. So I kind of got used to it. And like learned how to process it and learn how to like disassociate their actions from like me and the way I was processing the situation and my behavior and stuff like that. So now when I get it like literally on like an almost daily basis, so I log into Instagram, it's like, oh, this guy fucking hates me. This guy thinks I'm a devil worshipper. This guy thinks I'm a womanizer, like blah, blah, blah. I mean, all of the above is true, but just kidding. So like I'm just used to it. It's like I kind of learned to recognize it's like it's not really anything to do with me. You know, it's like I'm just like a conduit for their discontentedness, I guess. You know,
Yeah.
it's like they have to project it onto something, and at the time, I'm the thing that they find the most abrasive. So I don't mind that. I don't mind being the abrasive guy. You know.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good mentality to have on it.
Yeah.
So you said you were getting you got locked up in your like high school music room.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you like, how does like schooling work in like the UK? Because I know it's a little bit different in like America.
Yeah.
Because do you guys have something about like a certain amount of years you're allowed in high school? Because I know we're supposed to have at least 4 years to graduate.
Yeah. Well, we can leave school at 16 instead of 18.
Really?
So we finish like basic high school at 16. And then either you can just like go off and get a job. Excuse me. Either you can like go off and get a job. You can do like an apprenticeship, like in like a trade where you like learn a skill like sort of under the premise of a job. And then you get a qualification in that trade.
Yeah.
Or there's two options that are related to kind of like college and university. So you can do something called sixth form, which is basically an extension of high school for 2 more years. Or you can go to what we call college, which is, it's like again, it bridges those 2 years. And if you do sixth form or college, you get a qualification at the end, and then you can go to university, which is what you guys call college.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like there's a little 2-year gap where you have like a few different options rather than just doing it through when everyone leaves high school at the same age.
Yeah. That's kind of crazy. I feel like that'd be way cooler to have it here. Better, more options, you know?
Yeah.
But
it means people can choose what they want to specialize in a little bit earlier. But it's crazy, you know, because I've been all over Europe. I travel around Europe with some friends and a team a little while back, and it's real fascinating to see like the small differences in different cultures and how it actually affects how the people come out. So when you go pretty much anywhere in Scandinavia, like Norway or Finland, I fucking love Finland. It's like one of my favorite places to go. Helsinki in Finland is an amazing place. It's like a major city, but it feels like a small town. And if you go in the winter, it's just blanketed in snow. It's dope. But the way that the people in those countries approach stuff like health, for example, it's like, you know, when you go to like a health store here in California, and you can get those like shots of like ginger or whatever, and it's like for like immune system.
yeah.
In Scandinavia, you can buy them at like every corner store, every convenience store. Like those kind of health products are just everywhere. And there's like tons of gyms and spas. In Finland, this is wild. There was this dope studio there called Sonic Pump Studios. Shout out Sonic Pump. He'll be gassed. And we had a great session there. It's one of the biggest, like most kind of reputable studios there that recorded all kinds of these like huge Finnish metal bands. They have a sauna in the studio. I shit you not. I shit you not. You go in and it's like there's a kitchen area here, and then there's the recording rooms, and you go to the right, there's a bathroom, and then there's a fucking sauna. And you can do your session, and you can hit the sauna, and you can sweat out, and then you go straight back into the session. They love saunas in Scandinavia. I don't know why. There's this spot on the edge of the river. It's like you go in this super hot sauna room, and then you come out and you walk across literally like ice, like barefoot along ice. And then there's a pool that is like the coldest water can be before it freezes. And you're supposed to go down here, jump in this ice pool, and it feels like you're gonna die. Like there's a split second where it's like your whole body just shuts down and you're like, I'm gonna die. And then you get out of that, and then you go in the hot pool. And when you go in the hot pool, all your legs start like stabbing and tingling because of the difference in the temperature. So anyway, I've gone off on a tangent. Go to Finland, jump in the cold pool.
That sounds nice. Nice.
It's not nice. That's the wrong word. It's not wise. It's It's supposed to be very good for you, your circulation and shit. It's an experience.
I bet. I don't like going into any ice water at all, so I can only imagine that.
Yeah, it's not a lot of fun.
So you say you're a producer, but have you ever like made a track with your vocals and like wrote your own lyrics and done that before?
Yeah, I was putting out stuff under tons of different names, like before I kind of settled into the role as a producer. And the reason I ended up becoming a producer is for two reasons. Firstly, I recognize that on a very deep level, I get the most satisfaction and joy from the creative part of it as opposed to the performance part of it. Mm-hmm. So it's like I used to enjoy being on stage and stuff, but I used to feel like I was like the best version of myself when I was in the creative process. I've always been good with, like, even when I was an artist, I used to find when I was in the studio with other artists, I was very good at helping them to get the best out of what they were doing. But I was releasing stuff, all different projects, like pop projects, rock projects. I was in rock bands when I was a teenager. I was in like a real poppy pop group at one point as well, which was a lot of fun and talk. Like I've always been like a big Michael Jackson fan, big Prince fan, big Justin Timberlake fan. You know, like it's like iconic artists. You know, so always been interested in that. And then I got into EDM and dubstep and stuff as well. Started producing that kind of stuff for a while. So like I feel, and all through this, even when I was an artist, I was usually producing myself as well. I wasn't really using other people's beats and stuff. I didn't really fully get introduced to the concept of beats until I really got into hip hop. Because like, you know, my background is more in like rock and pop and shit like that. I'm like, you know, I learned to play piano when I was young. I learned to play guitar when I was 14, 15. So like that was all kind of, and obviously in the UK as well, hip hop didn't have such a like huge presence, as it does and as it did here. You know, all that's, you know, like all the like 90s hip hop like didn't really sort of make it across to the UK in the same way that it was here, with quite as much kind of like weight to it.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, like, I remember, I think my mom told me her first knowledge of hip hop even being a thing was Eminem. You know, like she didn't even know about rap music until Eminem happened. You know,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's such a long gap from like the start of it.
Right. When I actually got into hip hop, I was very aware that I was transitioning into a genre that I personally, like, I felt a little displaced because I knew the culture I was coming from wasn't necessarily aligned with the values of the lyrical content and, you know, like the culture. And I didn't want to feel like an imposter. So I kind of took it upon myself to do a great deal of research on not only a musical level, but on a cultural level. Yeah. So I looked at, there was a point when I was actually, I used to teach music to kids in schools, usually kids with like behavioral problems or who came from like disadvantaged backgrounds. And they were into like UK grime a lot. So at one point I tried to teach them like a history of hip hop. So I went into like teaching them about NWA and, you know, like the coastal shit. Like it was a journey, like for me as a producer and as a musician and as a admirer of that culture, and also trying to impart the knowledge to these kids who didn't really give a fuck and they just wanted to kind of throw chairs at each other. But you know, I'm grateful that gave me the opportunity to do that research, because now I feel like when I'm working with artists who come from like a very authentic hip hop background, so I understand where it comes from instead of just sort of like trying to culture vulture my way through. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And like that's a term that I'm always like I feel like it gets like thrown around a lot, but you know, I think as long as we kind of do our best to understand the art and where it comes from,
Yeah.
That's the same with whatever genre you go into. Like if I was gonna go into like EDM now or into like, I would feel like I'd need to do my research to understand where it came from.
Yeah.
You know?
Do it so you can like feel a part of it,
Yeah.
And with rap, like obviously a big part of that culture is like gangs and stuff like that, gangsters on like the coast and all that stuff. I just was wondering like if there's any like hardcore gangs in like the UK or England, because I know there's like their guys' police, they don't carry guns, right?
No, that's right. Yeah, your average kind of beat cop doesn't carry guns. Like they carry like a taser or something like that. But I mean, guns are really quite hard to get hold of, and I mean, obviously, if you know the right person, it's not.
Yeah.
But like, unless you're like a farmer with a permit for a rifle because you want to shoot a fucking grouse, getting hold of a gun is hard. And if you get caught with one, it's like quite serious consequences for it. It's like it's not like a slap on the wrist and a fine. It's like you're probably going to jail.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny. Because on a very base, like I understand that the gun situation in America is very complex and is kind of like there's a lot of history behind it, and there's a lot of guns already. Like there's a lot of things at play with that. But coming from the UK, it seems funny to us that some parts of America don't seem to be able to draw a very simple conclusion of there being more guns and people getting shot.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're probably getting shot because there's a lot of guns. I mean, don't get me wrong, like we get, murders and homicides and stuff, but we don't get like mass shootings.
Are they getting murdered from what?
Like not knives sometimes, or just like people's bare hands, like
Backyard brawls, just people getting down.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, not that I've had experience killing people with guns or knives, but I feel like pointing a weapon at someone from a distance and pulling the trigger, like it's a little more impersonal than having to actually physically beat the life out of someone, right? You know what I'm saying? It's just like, right? It's like, bang, you're dead, as opposed to I'm just gonna pummel you until you die. Like that does a big thing. So I kind of feel like, I feel like it's a lot easier for someone with a gun to end up killing someone than someone without a gun to just end up killing someone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's been cases here of like babies killing people, right?
Yeah.
There's like kids accidentally shooting their parents because they find the gun. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we don't have that problem. It seems like an obvious problem not to have, but I guess it also falls on responsibility of the parents not to put the gun in a baby accessible place. But yeah, we don't have that much gun presence. So we do have an armed division of the police. And in, like there's going to be like a big raid or something like that, then the police would maybe call in that the armed division. But your average police officer doesn't carry heat.
Do you find like people like on the streets or in like the hoods or like the dangerous areas of like the UK? Is there like common to see them like have guns or like weapons like that on them, or is it really just that hard to get like weapons out there? Or I mean firearms specifically.
Yeah, not guns like knives. Yeah, but then again, like you wouldn't ever see it because like obviously it's just illegal to have a gun. Mm-hmm. So there's no like open carry. Like you would not know if they had a gun unless they were going to use it.
Yeah. Because people here, they like you'll never know they have it, but there's like a good chance that a lot of people around you could have it on them.
Yeah, I know. I was speaking to some people just last week, and they were like, "Yeah, we showed up all like strapped." Like, I was like, "Oh, but how many people are just out here just with the Glocks in their bags? Like, are you serious?" So yeah, like that's never in my entire life growing up. It's never been on my mind that I'd be at somewhere and someone might have a gun. It's just not a thing. Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah. To me, at least, probably to most Americans, that's pretty crazy.
Well, I think it's funny because I think America's one of the only places in the world where it's like that. Like,
yeah.
Most places I've been to, it's like, like you go to Germany, the police have guns, but I'm pretty sure you can't buy a gun.
Mm-hmm. It's not as intense as everywhere else as it is here. I wanted to ask you, like, what were some artists, or like specifically an artist that got you into wanting to make music and produce music?
That's a good question. I'm gonna take you on a tangent. So when I was like 10 or 12 or something, I was into Michael Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's funny actually. I remember being even younger than that. There was this UK pop group called S Club 7, and they were like the cheesiest pop group ever. It was like music made for kids. It was like cheesy kid pop music. And it's funny because now, like years on, I'm like friends with one of the members. I like met him at a show and like ended up going on like a night out with the guy, and he it's interesting as well to like see someone who like as a kid you're like idol. He's like so clean cut, and then you see him on like a night out getting drunk and shit. It's just anyway. So I was into that, and then I was into Michael Jackson, and then when I got to like 15, 14, I discovered like rock music. I got into my first, like the thing that got me into rock music, and it's so funny how it came into that because I said I used to play video games a lot. I was playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, I think. And there's a track on there by a band called Less Than Jake called All My Best Friends Are Metalheads. And it's ska punk. So it's like these offbeat kind of reggae kind of guitar parts, crazy bass line, and then just like melodic punk vocals. I just loved that shit. I just loved it. And I got into listening to their albums. Oh, I also remember the first album I ever bought was the Shrek soundtrack. The Shrek soundtrack with All Star on it and shit. That was great records. I remixed All Star into a beat. I have two versions of All Star. It's fire. It's like really fire. I'm like waiting for the right artist to get on that shit. I don't know, the only artist I can think who might kill that would be maybe someone like Black Bear or someone like MGK maybe or something like that. But I feel like most kind of like serious like rappers probably would be like it's like a little weird little like left field, you know. Yeah, so I bought the Shrek soundtrack, and then I got into Less Than Jake, and then I got into Green Day, and that was my first concert. And I was
You're talking about All Star with Smash Mouth?
Yeah. yeah, banger, yeah. Green Day, my first concert, and then from there I got into kind of like metalcore music, like a little bit heavier stuff. There's a UK band called Bring Me the Horizon, and when they started out, they did like deathcore, like heavy metal shit. It's like chunky guitars, and I used to play guitar with my friends and like be in little groups and bands and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm actually just learning how to play guitar. I bought my first guitar not too long ago.
Yeah, the first year is challenging because it's before you learn the exact muscle movements and stuff just from repetition. So that first year is like, oh, I fucking suck. I fucking suck. And then it's like there comes a transitional point where it's like you have the basic ability now to feel like you can pretty much learn and do what you want with some practice. It's like you understand the instrument and you understand the music, and your hands will do what you're telling them to fucking do. You know? So like the first year is a real challenge. And then when I went to university, I was 18, 19. I discovered Future Sex Love Sounds by Justin Timberlake. And I bumped that record for like a year. I bumped that record for a year straight. I fucking loved that album. And it's crazy now as well because I've just recently got involved with Beat Club, which is Timbaland's new project. But yeah, so like obviously now, after being such a fanboy for that record, because I'll tell you what as well, that particular record came at a time when I started to really, so I'd broken up with like my high school girlfriend, and I just started to like feel like a little bit of swag, a little bit like player vibe, started to like go out, find my like, sow my wild oats, so you want to call it. So from transitioning from like emo music to now listening to like confident music, like swaggy, confident music. Someone like Justin Timberlake is like very like sexually confident. Like pretty much all his songs are about like. Actually, no, that's not fair to say. Not all his songs are about getting girls in bed. A lot of them are, but he has some stuff with a little bit more meaning, a little bit like some more like relationships as well. Yeah, maybe. So that was like a very transitional period from going and that album was kind of the soundtrack to that for me. And obviously like Timbaland produced like pretty much all of that, or co-produced at least. And that was when I first started to really recognize the producer as being like a key element of an artist, I suppose. Because before that, I was listening to bands before, and they were all like guitars and stuff, but I was like, oh, the producer is actually like a key creative element here, creative component. I sort of knew a little bit about it with Quincy Jones. But even then it was a little different because they were still using mostly like a live band. So like, I feel like back in the day, the term producer would usually just be like someone who was more like a musical director and would kind of like tell everyone where to go and where to stand and stuff and help with the writing a little bit. It wasn't how it is now where it's like hands-on, you're making the fucking track. You're literally making the sounds and you're writing the chord sequence and you're recording the vocals. And you, in some cases, like engineers are writing some of the vocal melodies with the tuning and stuff like that. It's like a whole different approach to the role. And then after the pop stuff with like Justin Timberlake and shit, after that got into EDM, Skrillex. I remember listening to Skrillex's album. I remember lying on my bed in the dark listening to it, and it was like as soon as I got through, I think it was his EP, his Scary Monsters EP. I remember sitting up and being like, all right, I want to do that now. I don't want to do that. I want to do that music now. So I learned how to produce EDM. And then, like a few years later, I moved into hip hop.
Mm-hmm. So do you take that EDM like Skrillex type of like style into like your hip hop and beats and stuff like that?
When I first started, not quite so much EDM. When I first started, I remember sending some beats to Eitan Ben-Harin from Warner Music, and I was back and forth with it a little bit, and he called me out, and he basically said, "Your beats sound like an industrial rock producer, like Nine Inch Nails, trying to do hip hop." And I was like, "Damn, he got me. That's exactly what I fucking am. That's exactly what I am." And it took me a little bit of time after that to recognize why it sounded like that and to make it sound more authentically trap. Because and that's not to say that some beats that style suits. Like sometimes I will use like a more like a clangy snare sound or a more distorted sound, whatever. It's like Kanye Yeezus kind of shit, that like really like distorted, like nasty shit. But generally I've had to kind of like tame that, because thing about the transition from rock to EDM is really easy because they're both about the same thing. They're about like big noise, like big drops, like heavy guitars, heavy synth, stuff like that. When I first could discover dubstep, I remember the first time I heard dubstep and I was like, oh, like, okay. I was at a party at my own apartment and someone put on this track. I think it was a track called How Rude by Flux Pavilion. And the hook line, it's like, you just want to be fucked in your ass. And then it just drops really hard with this dubstep shit. And I was like, yo, this is crazy. But it sounded to me like, so from like metalcore and stuff like that, there were these parts of the song that you'd call breakdowns, which are these like chuggy guitar parts. Mm-hmm. And it's really stripped back. It's just a chuggy guitar and the drums just going hard. It's like very simple. And for me, dubstep just felt like that, but electronic. So that transition was very easy for me. So to then come from a genre like that, which is all about like big, hard, big, hard, like big noise, to transition to something like trap, which is interesting because I actually think in a lot of ways trap is way harder and more like hard hitting than some of that EDM stuff. But it's like the reason it hits hard is the complete opposite. it's like there's like a cockiness to the way trap is produced. It's kind of like, I'm trying to think of an analogy for this. It's kind of like the difference between it's the difference between someone who walks in a room and gets everyone's attention by being like loud and ostentatious and like, you know, and then the difference between someone who walks in a room and just like commands instant attention just because of their energy and their aura and just because they just, you know, they just have something. And that's kind of what I feel like the difference is. Something like EDM or rock, it's like, I'm here, like, listen to me. And traps, it's just like quiet. It's like quietly hard hitting because there's none of these big like trebly synths and stuff like that. It's just, it hits with the bass and then, you know, there's like these kind of eerie soundscapes and shit and the drum. But even like something like the trap snare, a general trap snare, it's just like, it's like the smallest sound.
Yeah.
But it hits so hard if you get it right compared to like an EDM snare, which is like these big, like ridiculous noises. So transitioning from, you know, being like big sound to being like, no, small sounds, but done in a way where it actually hits harder. That was a transition.
Yeah.
But once I got it, I was like, oh, I like this better, like a lot better.
Yeah.
You know?
That's sick. It's crazy. You've obviously done a lot of like time and research throughout all these like different genres of music. You're able to explain them like really well.
Well, like I used to teach.
Yeah.
So I'm good at expressing that. As well, coming from a pop background, a song starts off small, gets big for the chorus, goes small again, and then the end chorus is like big and epic, right? That's the kind of thing I was used to. A trap beat barely changes. Very tiny, like subtle variations in like, you know, hi-hats and percussion and stuff like that. So training myself to be like, no, don't put the string section in. You know what I mean? It's like that's not appropriate. It doesn't make sense. And also like recognizing, I remember reading something a few years ago from Taz Taylor, you know, from Internet Money. And he was like, it's not about you. It's about the artist. Like, you need to recognize that. I remember at the time, I kind of found that a little bit jarring because I was trying to create like a very distinctive sound as a producer. And I was like, okay, cool, but I want people to know my beats for what they sound like. And, you know, it takes a lot to be able to do both those things, to be able to create something that is actually leaving room for the artist, but people know it's you.
Yeah.
It's tough. I think I kind of got there. Fingers crossed.
How's it living in England with like a queen? Because we have a president here. I've never experienced anything like that. Like, do you think that people from where you're from view and respect the queen as much as like people here view and respect our president?
No. Next question. But I think most of England just kind of considers the Queen like, it's kind of like a cute novelty.
Really?
Yeah, because we know that she doesn't necessarily currently at this point have that much control over the direction of the country. You know, that's why we have Parliament and we have like a government for that. The Queen's just like, Russell Brand talked about it. He was like, as far as I'm concerned, the Queen is just a little old lady with a sparkly hat that we bought her. And I was like, facts. I can't really argue that. But like, obviously, it's steeped in history and culture and stuff, and like, it's cool that, like, you know, we have a lot of history. And one of the interesting things about England as well is, compared to his, the age of the architecture. Like, we have buildings that are like old that are still in use since like before America was even a thing. You know, like we have like old buildings. So it's cool that we have that. I like it's a little weird to me sometimes to kind of talk so much about England as a concept because like I don't necessarily feel a great deal of like affiliation or loyalty to England as a concept or It's just a place where I lived.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, this is gonna sound so disrespectful when I say it, but you know, like when you only live in a house for 6 months and then you just leave and go to the next house and you're just like, okay, it's a new house. I kind of feel that way about England a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, I lived there and I did, but like I'm not like, oh, England, you know. I like going back sometimes, and like there are things about it that I enjoy. I like some of the food there better than some of the food here, mostly because you guys put some wild shit in your food here that is literally illegal in our country back home. Like literally, you're not like, it's against the law to make that shit. So that's nice sometimes, and like there's like a quaintness to it. But yeah, like England is like an institution, as like a concept, as a monarchy. Like I don't fucking have any sense of attachment.
Yeah. It's just like, yeah, I was there because that's where I came from. It's just like, it just happened there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, seems like our president has a lot more power. And I wanted to see how you thought about Trump. Obviously, he's not president anymore. But as he was leaving, he decided to pardon a lot of people. And Lil Wayne happened to be one of the people that he pardoned. And he was getting a lot of backlash when he was first like supporting Trump early on, like before his last year. And I was just wondering, like, do you think he planned it out in order to like get this like parliament and get off all of his like bad things off him? Do you think it was a whole plan? Because he looks like a genius right now.
I don't think it's crazy to think that. I think that's a yeah, maybe. You know, like I don't even know what Wayne did this time to end up in jail. What did he do this time?
Gun charge.
Oh, okay. All right.
This time.
Exactly. So maybe, you know, maybe
He's gonna do 10 years.
Kanye said that it was all a ruse as well.
Yeah.
He said because he came out real heavy in support for Trump, and then later on he was like, no, it was a ruse to get in on the inside, you know. It's like, but you know, like Kanye is a whole different kettle of fish. Like you just kind of like Kanye just doing Kanye, you know. So he's doing some Kanye stuff again.
His own category.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw this funny clip from a video the other day where someone asked about Kim Kardashian. They asked Kim Kardashian what some of Kanye's most annoying habits were. And she said Kanye falls asleep everywhere. So when Kanye's in meetings, he just falls asleep in the meetings and shit, and she has to make excuses like, oh, he's so jet lagged. He's still jet lagged. It's like he hasn't been abroad in a year. I thought that was a funny anecdote.
He's too famous to care. That's his attitude.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm too famous to care about this conversation.
Yeah, of course, fuck it. I'm asleep. Literally, sleeping is a better use of my time in this conversation. For sure. That's what I'm trying to get. So, you know, they talk about like fuck you money. So that's fuck you sleeping.
You go to sleep, and they're trying to close the deal with you, but they still respect you. He's an artist. He's gonna fuck you. Versus you're an asshole. They need that money from you. They need that deal.
Right.
That's your boss.
Especially when, I mean, you're at that level as well when you've got such a degree, you've got like so many parts moving. Like when you're sleeping, you're still making a shit ton of money anyway. So it's like whatever, you know, sleep it off.
I wish I could be in that situation right now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That does like, you know, getting those multiple income streams.
Tell me about some of the projects you're working on right now.
So yeah, I got this track hopefully coming up with Uzi, which is exciting.
That's sick. I actually think I saw that one on Instagram Live. I'll be watching his Instagram Lives a lot because I listen to him quite a bit. Yes, so I thought it was pretty sick. I had no idea that it was your beats underlying it.
Yes, yeah. It was like 5 a.m. In the UK. I was back in the UK at the time, and the lawyer, a guy called Jason Berger, he's really dope. He texted me like, "Oh, Uzi's playing new music on live." Mm-hmm. And he told me before, he was like, Uzi, cut one of your beats. I was like, okay, dope. So I went on, and when it first came on, my beat tag played, I was hype. It was the middle of the night as well, and at the time I was living with 2 friends back home. I was just like bouncing around my room. Yes.
You heard your tag, your actual tag?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
It was a moment. I was like, shit.
Did you record it?
Yeah. It's on my Instagram. Of course I recorded. Like, come on. The thing is, I recorded it, and then I had like 5 people send me the video because they all recorded it too. They were like, Uzi. I was like, oh shit. So I'm gassed about that, but I've been told that like Uzi waits till the last minute before confirming his albums and shit. So I won't know until the last minute, if it's gonna be on there. I'm hoping it is, because it like I don't want to like, you know, it's a banger though. Like he killed it. It's funny because so the beat it's my melody, and the drums is by a producer that's actually signed to me. So my company, Ghostcraft Music, I have like 5 producers signed under me on collab deals. I basically send them loops and they send back beats. And it just means that if I'm in sessions all week with artists and I don't have time to make new beats, they are still keeping me loaded up with beats that are half my beats. You know, it's actually a little more than half my beats because I deal like that with them. That it's me and my co-producer Bellwether, and that he'd just signed with me like less than a month before that. So I was gassed to be able to give him a fucking Uzi cut. Like right after he signed with me, I was like, "Here you go," and he was like, "Oh shit!" Is it like he texted me? He was like, "Is this real? Is this real?" I was like, "Let's go." So there's that. I just kind of waiting for that to come out. Obviously, like I said, I just locked in with Lil Xan. We did a really great chat last night with him and Icy Narco. I'm looking forward to seeing what we're gonna do with that. I have a ton of tracks with Chevy Woods from Taylor Gang.
Really?
So Chevy was Wiz Khalifa's hype man back in the day.
Yeah.
And the first track I got with him was me and a couple other producers. And I just got told, I was like, "Oh, like Chevy Woods cut this." I was like, "Okay, cool." And then I reached out to him, and like we got on quite good communication. Just been sending him beats. He just kept using them. He just kept like sending me snippets and stuff. And then this was really dope as well. So it's so funny because I was on his story one time, and he was vibing with Tyler Yahweh, which is Tyler is Post Malone's artist under Dre London, and he's dope. It's real dope, like melodic stuff, like sick. And I'd been sending him beats for a while, but I saw Chevy and Tyler were like vibing to this beat, and they recorded on it, and I was like, "Oh, this is dope." I listened, I was like, "Oh, I don't think it's one of mine." Like, "Oh, like what a shame," you know. I was like, and then I think the next day I text Chevy like, "Hey, bro," because I had an artist I was working with on like a development thing, and I was like, "He wants a feature from you. How much is your feature rate?" And in reply to that text, he sent me that snippet of Chevy and Tyler vibing to this beat. And I was like, "Why did he say? This isn't my beat." And I played it back, and on second listen, it was obviously my beat. I don't know if because I remember making them. It was this pack of guitar melodies I'd made, and the producer was this Spanish producer called Merca Loops, who again he just signed to me recently, bringing the fucking like curse. That's a dope feeling. I like, because I only really sign producers who have like nothing else going on, but who are just like I literally the only thing I care about is how dope the drums are, because I send them the melodies and then they send me back the fucking fire beats with the drums. So if it always feels good to be able to bring someone who has like nothing else going on. It's like, here's your first major fucking credit. Like, you know, like now you have the credibility to do whatever the fuck you want. But yeah, he sent me that. I was like, this is obviously my beat. So it's like through working with this artist, we get this cut. And I've kind of begun to recognize that as well. Like I had never really thought this, but like people have loads of different ways of navigating this industry. I know a lot of producers who the way they do it is they just make melodies and they send the melodies to producers who are tight with these artists or whatever. And then they get the cuts because their melodies are on the beats, and then the beats get pitched, whatever. Like that's quite a common way of doing it. I've never really liked the idea of that because it's too hands off for me. Like I want to be And also, I like making fucking drums and 808s and shit. Like, I enjoy that process. But for me, it's like one of the things I've always prided myself on is I'm good at making people feel comfortable in the studio. I'm good at building relationships like that. I'm good at, like navigating like socially different relationships. To like just to like make people to like offer value to people and to make them feel good about working with you. To give them an experience that's better than the next person that I've worked with or whatever, And one thing that I've recognized is that, because back in the day, I used to think it was the A&Rs who were like the key. Like you get it through the A&R, you get it through the label, you get it through the A&R, and then they take it out. And then it's like, I used to think that they were the ones who would open the doors, but it's not. It's direct to the artists. That's the game changer. Like, but it's difficult to get to that point because you need a certain degree of credibility to get them to answer their fucking DMs or to pull up to the to the studio. So a real big thing that changed for me was getting verified on Instagram. Bro, like your entire experience of Instagram, it just flips so drastically. Like suddenly, I remember there was this one particular A&R who I'd been trying to get to for like 1 or 2 years, and they'd never replied to me, ever. As soon as I got verified, I sent one message, and they were like, "Yo, your shit is dope. Let's work." I was like, "Yo, it's really that simple," So like, having that credibility to be able to actually crack open the doors, and then it's like little stepping stones. So it's like what like one of the big reasons I ended up in the room with Zan was because he was a fan of Icy's music, and one of the reasons I ended up working with Icy is because I was working with his homie Grant, who's dope like R&B, kind of like rocky R&B stuff. I was working with him, and he actually lives with Icy. And then working with Icy, and Zan likes Icy's music. Now I'm in the room with Zan, and it's just like working. But I don't want it to sound like it's like strategic in like an underhanded way. It's not like I'm like trying to use people. Yeah, I'm building genuine relationships with people, and people see that good energy, and they want to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's all about making the right connections.
Sure. But most people don't know what the right connections are, and they spend ages chasing the wrong connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's sick though. Obviously, you got a lot ahead of you. You're gonna produce a lot of good music with obviously Uzi, Zan, and everybody. Hopefully, more to come. But right now, I wanna see if you have like a crazy story for me, like anywhere, anytime in your life, in the studio, funny, crazy, just what comes off the top of your head.
Man,
witness no crazy fights or anything like that.
The thing is about me as well is I'm teetotal, so I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do any kind of recreational drugs at all. Just I'm like caffeine, sugar, pussy. It's the only things I'm addicted to. Everything else, I don't have any interest in it. So like, I don't have any like crazy like, oh, I was on Molly and I did I don't have any like,
Yeah,
I've been around people who've done it, but pretty much all my stories are sex stories.
Has any girls fucked you over?
Yeah, but I don't remember it because I don't focus on the L's. I sound like Gary Vee right now. Like Gary Vee. Just like, you gotta learn to love losing. You gotta learn to... Like, I just... absolutely. I've had tons of experiences where I've just been like, wow, like, really? Like, that's how you want to move? You did that, But it just doesn't stick with me like that. I just don't let it stick with me. It's one of the reasons why I just like, people always comment on how just like relentless I am with like my moves. And like, yo, I've been out in LA for like, I've only been back here 2 or 3 weeks. I've had sessions with massive artists, and it's like, I don't focus on the shit that most people it would fuck them up. I remember a period, I don't want to get to like too fucking personal with this, but the first time I came to LA, there was a period of about 3 or 4 months. I swear to God, like in here, I was fucked up. I was in a dark, dark place. I was like really struggling. Like I was like, there was literally a point, I'm not going to get all deep into it, but it comes from a part of my childhood. You said you were interested in my childhood. I was raised Jehovah's Witness.
Wow.
I was raised in like Christian cult, right?
Knocking on doors.
Yeah, for real, knocking on doors. So like, there was a time when, in my childhood, I was raised around a lot of like, it's a very guilt-centric religion. Like, you do a bad thing, you deserve to be punished or whatever, So as an adult, I have a tendency to carry that with me. Like when I feel like I fucked up or something when I did something I feel like I shouldn't have done that. I have a tendency to not let it go. So there was a period when I was literally worried I would never be happy again. Like that's how bad these kind of like sensations were. It was like pit of the stomach shit. But I didn't slow down. And that's the difference. That's the difference. It's like I feel like this, but one day maybe I won't. And what I don't want to happen is that I get to that point in a year's time or 2 years time, or however long it takes to make me feel better. And for the record, I'm good now. I feel way better. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to get to a point in the future where I'm like, damn, I wish I hadn't spent 4 months just like wallowing in my own self-pity.
Yeah.
I wish I'd done some fucking work, And being able to just like separate the way I'm feeling to what I'm doing, that's a life hack.
Yeah.
Huge life hack.
Way better to like pick yourself up and like try and forget about it than have to regret it in the future. Yeah,
it's like I speak to a lot of people and they don't seem to. It's like they're like, oh, I can't do this. I feel this way. I'm like, no, people behave as if they're not in control of their actions. Sometimes, like they're like, oh, I feel this way, so therefore my actions have to reflect that. That's not true. That's not true. Like, it is sometimes in extreme cases. People are human. If you want to like take a day to sit in your bed and play video games and jerk off until you feel better, fine. But don't do it for 3 months. Do you know what I mean? Like get to fucking work. You just got to pick yourself. I don't even like using the term pick yourself up because it's not even like, for me, it's not a sense of like, let's get back on the horse. It's like I'm always on the fucking horse.
Yeah.
No matter how I feel, no matter what's going on in my life, I'm always on the horse. The period of me moving back to LA, like my productivity like barely changed. So I'm moving countries. I'm still sending out beats every day, making beats every day, hitting people up, texting every day, phone calls every day. It's like people are bad with time management and people are bad with emotional management. People get tired too easily, but for me, it's like you find that like, it's like a North Star of purpose. It's like you lock onto that and it's like everything else, it's just like, it's like, it's not important. It's like, oh yeah, I'll do the shit I have to do, but it's there. I'm going there.
Yeah.
I get too philosophical. Again, I sound like Gary Vee right now.
Yeah, following your passion when you really want it.
Yeah, fucking relentlessly.
All right, well, I think that's all the questions that we have today, all the time that we have today. Really thank you, Alex, for coming out today. Where could people find your music, find you, everything about you?
For sure, bro, yeah. So my company website is ghostcraftmusic.com. My Instagram is alexander.thegreat, but if you just type LXX at the top of the search, usually on the top one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's like my two main kind of places. I have a Spotify as well where there's a few little things, but I'm a producer, not an artist.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you, man. I really appreciate you coming out here.
Sure, it was great to chat with you.
Thank you.
It's the podcast with the Prodigy. It's the podcast with the Prodigy. It's the podcast with the Prodigy. My podcast.